This information is not intended as legal, health, or nutritional advice. It is provided for informational purposes only. The Natural Health Product Protection Association does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements, views, or opinions presented by guests or attendees. Help us help you. If NHPPA's work to protect your natural health product and practice freedom is important to you, please make a one-time or monthly donation by visiting nhppa.org/donate.
I was welcoming everyone and trying to explain that the NHPPA, we're here just to protect your access to natural health products and your health rights. And we're really quite important in that we're the longest standing organization that's just been consistent at pursuing things. And time after time, I can tell you we've been told by industry members in Health Canada that things have only been, I'll use the word reasonable, but I'll have to smile, as reasonable as they have been because of us. So, and I have to smile with the word reasonable because things aren't reasonable at all. But they're way more reasonable than they're going to be shortly. So let's be thankful for that. And I wanted to thank everyone who subscribes to our newsletter. It's the action that we ask you to take that makes this work. And if you don't subscribe to our newsletter, please subscribe. And if you don't follow our social media channels, please do so. And, repost and like us and things like that. It helps us with the algorithms. And we are in an information war. The more people we get involved, the better. And I wanted to thank those of you that support us financially, especially those that support us monthly, because, we're a lean ship and we get a lot of value for your donations, but we really rely on them. And we're only able to do what we do because you support us. And I wanted to personally thank you. I'm really excited about what we're doing. I'm excited about what we're going to do.
I think we have to remind everyone they had to shut down Parliament to stop us. We had the private members bill passed, which is it's almost a generational activity that a private member bill gets to the next stage, and we did it.
Okay, so just so that you understand what Jason's saying is, so a private member's bill is a bill introduced by a member of Parliament that is not in the government party. And so for it to get a majority vote to get past first reading, and for it to then get a majority vote to get past second reading, because then it goes into committee, that's maybe happened 10 times that we've been a country, if that many. Like, it's just, you're going to find hen's teeth more often than you're going to find a private member's bill getting into committee. But Jason, that bill got out of committee.
Incredible,
largely
right?
Unscathed. Like, when, on what planet does that happen? And that happened because of your support. Like, that showed that we were able to get some response.
We were winning, Yeah. So, we just got to, but we got to do it again.
Yeah. I know that after the election, it's funny, I go to prayer meeting at our church the Tuesday after, and everyone was kind of like totally in a funk about the election. And so, the whole service was kind of praying through that and talking about it, and everyone was fine afterwards. I can tell you that I wasn't emotionally invested in this election. I think that it really didn't matter too much. I just wanted a minority government so that, whoever was in power really couldn't change things dramatically. And that's where we are. And, I actually think that we may have another election sooner than we think. So those were my thoughts on the election. And I forgot, Jason, do you want to throw in the chat just the link to our donate for those people that are watching, whether live or later on, whether they, just so that they can find that page easily. Jason and Dana, did you guys have any thoughts on the election?
We had thoughts while you were gone. We were bringing back times that you had mentioned that a conservative majority would potentially be more dangerous for NHPPA and getting activity pushed through to access natural health products. So, and in fact, at one point in one of our campaign updates, you said this is potentially the best outcome. A minority liberal government with more conservative MPs who we've managed to get traction with over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think everything happens for a reason. I think we're in a really, really exciting time historically. And, I think that actually we can end up in a situation where things are much more reasonable on the health front than they have been in our lifetime. But we're going to go through some muddy waters before it clears up. But I'm really excited, and I'm excited because of what's happening south of the border. Can you throw in the chat the link to the Del Bigtree interview? And most of you on the call probably know who Del Bigtree is. He is a journalist, but he was helping produce the show The Doctors. And he founded ICANN. And Del came to Edmonton in March, and when he heard that we had cameraman Jason Dahl there, he says, I got to be filmed by Dahl. Will you interview me? So I interviewed him. And he said something that it's a world first. Is he indicated to us that within the Kennedy circle, so, we've got Mr. Kennedy, who is now running health services in the United States, and they're having a dialogue. Should the FDA be basically going through this process of determining whether a drug works or not? It's called efficacy. So to get licensed both in Canada and the United States, you have to show safety and you have to show efficacy. And then, once the safety profile and the efficacy profiles are understood, then, criminal law requires a balancing of, do the benefits outweigh the risks? Well, they were actually having a dialogue. Should we be in this efficacy game at all? Because then, in effect, the FDA, the government, becomes the biggest sponsor for pharmaceutical companies by asserting that the drug is effective. Why not allow the market to determine whether a drug works? And so we had a dialogue about that. And I have to tell you, I was completely surprised to learn that, because basically it's a dialogue on even the way we do things. Like, we've fallen into this drug model in the 1930s. And I think the whole drug model needs to be thrown out. And just the idea that it's even on the table is fascinating. You'll want to watch that interview. You will not see that information anywhere else in the world. It's groundbreaking. It's a fantastic interview. And so would ask that you'd watch that. Let's switch to, and Dana, I'm going to rely on you to take over for this, kind of a key moments on, advocacy and what's been going on. So we've just had a really exciting time at the NHPPA during the elections. So
we really have. So I wanted to start by talking about something that's been getting a lot of attention in our social media comment section lately. And that is the impact that the new regulations are expected to have on natural health practitioners, especially where the $5 million per day fines are concerned. So just as a brief refresher for the people watching, non-compliance fines within the natural health industry used to be set at $5,000 per offense. But as of June 2023, when Budget Bill C-47 was passed, these fines increased to $5 million per day that you're in offense. And as more and more practitioners are learning about this, they're wondering if it even applies to them and what it could mean for their practice. So, Shawn, I wanted to ask you kind of a two-part question specifically about the fines. So first, do the fines apply to practitioners working in retail stores and making recommendations in retail stores like health food stores? And second, do they apply to practitioners working one-on-one in a private practice?
Those are super questions, and let's give some clarity here. And I'm troubled by your term practitioner, because you're using it also in the context of a health food store. And there are practitioners that work in health food stores and interact with the public and give some advice, but they're not really in a practitioner-patient relationship at that point. And this is important, and this is really scary. So it's really, we have to talk about the two last budget bills. So Dana, you were talking about this change where we had a $5,000 per offense fine for the natural health industry, and they moved us into the pharmaceutical fine model in the budget bill in 2023, of all things. So they're making substantive health changes in the 2023 budget. But then tied to your question, they made changes in the 2024 federal budget where the Minister of Health can basically make it illegal. Just, it doesn't have to go through Parliament, no regulation, nothing. The Minister of Health can just basically make an order that a class of drugs or a specific drug cannot be promoted for or used for off-label use. Okay, the combination here is super important, and this doesn't just apply to practitioners. This would apply to anyone, even like a podcast like this. So now, what is off-label use? So we've got in our Constitution a division of powers between the federal government and the provinces. And the federal government steps into drug regulation using the criminal law power. So the Food and Drug Act and these regulations we're fighting about, it's actually the exercise of the criminal law power. And most of us would agree, hey, sure, step in with the criminal law power and say people can't be fraudulent. So don't say something does something it doesn't. Don't say the label on the label it's got certain ingredients and it doesn't. And don't adulterate. Don't put something dangerous in there that could harm us. And don't sell something that's unsafe. Like we'd all agree, hey, okay, that's criminal law power. It just gets interesting then in the area of natural health products when these products as a group are safer than peanut butter. And you're saying we can't sell them without getting pre-approval, whether there's even jurisdiction there. But in any event, the federal government, under their criminal law power, has imposed a licensing scheme. So they will approve a drug for a certain purpose. And let's just use breast cancer as an example. So let's say I'm a pharmaceutical company. Let's say I'm Pfizer, and I want to get approval for a breast cancer drug. Well, I'm going to have to do likely a bunch of clinical trials to get the two necessary to get approval. But to maximize my chances of getting through and to minimize any safety danger signals, I'm going to want the youngest, healthiest women possible. So I might only do my clinical trial on, women 25 to 42, right? Because I know that if I go older than that, I'm going to have more deaths. And I'm going to limit my trial to stage 1 breast cancer because I'm going to have fewer deaths because I know my drugs is going to be inherently, novel chemicals are inherently dangerous and chemotherapy drugs particularly so. So let's say they get approval. So they've run, and they'll also do it just for a short time period. We're not talking curing here. We're just talking markers that show improvement. So let's say they get approval for stage 1 breast cancer for women aged 25 to 42. Now I'm an oncologist. I'm never going to see that patient. But I've got a 58-year-old with stage 3. Well, I've got no drug to use. I'm going to use that one. That's off-label use. And we just don't run clinical trials generally on pregnant women, for example, and children, for example. So almost all drug use for those groups are off-label use. And in fact, most of our drug use is off-label use. Now, the provinces regulate the practitioners. So that be they medical doctors or be they natural health practitioners like naturopaths or nutritionists. So these doctors, they try to make the best decisions they can on a client or patient basis. So your medical practitioner, it's like, well, how do I think I'm going to get the best health outcomes? And they don't care what the Health Canada approval's for, and they don't have to care. They're free to use off-label use, providing the province and their college allows, them, and they all do, because the goal is to get the best health outcomes. I mean, sometimes a drug's approved for one condition, doesn't work very well for that at all, but doctors learn because they've prescribed it for that condition, and patient after patient's coming back and saying, well, it didn't do anything there, but my gosh, my gout's gone type thing, right? So, we have drugs that are approved for one purpose that are largely used for another. Well, the company's not going to go and run a clinical trial and get approval for the other thing. They've already got approval, so it doesn't matter. So off-label use. So back to your question, Dana. So what changed in the 2024 budget is now the Minister of Health could basically make an order saying for all natural health products, you cannot promote those for off-label use. It's an offense. And our offense has gone from $5,000 to $5 million a day. Well, now I'm working in a health food store, and somebody walks in and says, I'm suffering from migraines. Now, I want to tell them this type of B vitamin, and this type of magnesium, is really likely to help. And that's like kind of standard advice. But now it's an offense for me to do that if the Minister of Health makes that order, because that's off-label use. The magnesium won't be approved to help with migraines, and the B vitamin complex won't be approved for that. And so you see the danger. And like naturopathic doctors, I'll just use them as an example, just because I have some personal knowledge of Health Canada going after them when they're advertising truthfully for things like intravenous vitamin C, helping to mitigate and get you through chemotherapy, for example. Well, it's not approved for that. That's off-label use. And, and Health Canada threatens them with these $5 million a day fines. So if a practitioner is working in a health food store, if the person is not, if you're not in a practitioner-patient relationship, you're in trouble. So I would say almost all advice given in a health food store, that is not protected by practitioner-patient. Now, to my understanding, you've got a patient in your office and you're giving one-on-one advice to that patient, it's not an offense for you to tell the patient the truth. It may, if the minister passes an order saying you can't use natural health products for off-label use, it will be an offense for you to sell them products for off-label use, because a lot of just using naturopathic doctors as an example, a lot of them sell products. And definitely traditional Chinese practitioners compound and sell products. That will become a full-on offense if the Minister of Health passes that order that I'm anticipating in the future. And it'll just happen. It'll just be published in the Gazette and it'll be a done deal. Doesn't even have to be. But the minister just issues an order and they publish it on their website, basically banning the promotion of all natural health products for off-label use. And we're all in a world of hurt. So can you imagine the health food stores, if their staff can't be giving advice like, well, why don't you try magnesium and this vitamin B complex, for example, just sticking with this migraine example. Can you imagine if that advice is not able to be given? And it's truthful health advice. We're not even talking about fraud. So if people can't go into a health food store and say, I've got this and I've got that, and what do you recommend? Because Health Canada has shut down some stores by charging them. Wow, we're in a different world, aren't we? And so if I'm a practitioner, I'm worried about this increase in fines. If I'm a store, I am selling my store. I'm just telling you, if I owned a health food store, I am getting out of the business now. Now. Not tomorrow, today. Because my business could be worthless. Just one order could be worthless. It's too much business risk.
It's definitely very scary stuff. I personally used to work as a nutritionist in a health food store before the new regulations came in. And I would have a lot of people that would come in, very genuine people that had questions about topics that today I would be at risk if I were to have honestly answered their questions and made recommendations based on my education. And I think if I were to still be working in a health food store today, I would probably be in fear that any of the people coming in with some form of undercover Health Canada inspector coming to test me and see if I give incorrect off-label answers to their questions. So it's definitely something that's very scary. It is a bit good to hear that for practitioners working in a one-on-one private practice right now, they are still in the clear. However, you did mention that the 2024 budget bill kind of loaded the ability for the Minister of Health to just drop the hammer at any point in time on that. I did just want to add something. You've talked about this a lot. One of the other major impacts that is going to affect practitioners, especially those operating in a one-on-one setting, isn't related to fines. It's about product loss, right? So practitioners often rely on hundreds, even thousands of products to run a complete practice, especially homeopaths. They often need thousands of products. And if those become unaffordable for their clients, or if they disappear from the market entirely because of new regulations, it really becomes harder for practitioners to run a complete practice and deliver the type of personalized care that natural health practitioners are really known for and that their clients need. So it's not just bad for their businesses, it's really bad for public health. And I kind of have one other thought I'd like to add in. It just brings me to a broader issue that, Shawn, you recently brought up on the news forum. You were on there live a little while ago, and that's the tie-in to Canada's doctor shortage. According to news reports, over 6 million Canadians don't have regular access to a family doctor. And then at the same time, politicians across all political parties are talking about this, trying to offer solutions. Meanwhile, new regulations are being imposed on the natural health industry that are going to make these products and practitioners less accessible. And what's that going to do? Many of the people who are effectively managing and preventing acute and chronic health conditions with natural health products and with the help of practitioners are going to be forced to rely on a conventional medical system that's already overwhelmed and understaffed. So it's really just not a good picture looking forward. And it's very ironic that a doctor shortage is happening at the same time as new regulations are being implemented that's going to harm the natural health industry.
Well, it's quite fantastic. And we need to touch a couple of things there. So, so one is so you're talking about how basically we're at risk of losing products as Health Canada presses ahead with this self-care framework, and we really are. I mean, when it's fully implemented, and these regulations will have been written no later than 2018 when Health Canada toured the country, but likely in 2017, and they won't show them to us. But there's little hints and glimpses, like so when they published in the Canada Gazette their proposal for cost recovery, which is what you're talking about, where they're going to impose fees for licensing. They said in there, and anyone can go and read it. I mean, these are all public documents, that they were going to use all the money they received for cost recovery to hire more inspectors to go basically enforce stricter regulations and to ensure, basically censorship, to ensure that claims are not being made, things are not being said beyond the label claim, which is, pretending to be a patient, which is going into a health food store and pretending to be a customer. So they're basically telling us we need the money for charging you for licensing and the like, so that we can hire inspectors to make sure that you're not talking about off-label use, which is perfectly legal for you to do because it's provincial jurisdiction. There's no law saying you can't say things truthfully, but Health Canada takes that position, and you're going to be too little to survive it, and off we go. Like, there's no question in my mind, when we're fully in the self-care framework, when we've got full harmonization, we're done. We'll have a few industries left, we'll have multivites, we'll have vitamin C, vitamin D, but the innovative products that the practitioners really need won't be there. So don't ever think you're not making a difference, because you are making a difference, and we really thank you for working with us.
On the topic of Health Canada, did you want to give a little teaser of the upcoming campaign that we're working on?
Well, not really, because I want to take some questions and answers, except that we've been building a campaign. Well, okay, we're frustrated, and I'm frustrated that, when we were approaching the election and we decided, okay, we got to make this an election issue, we looked back and we had, 14 months, 2.3 million postcards. But we had almost, 750,000 letters on Bill 368. And those were electronic letters that we could track, but a whole bunch of you would have faxed, and a whole bunch of you would have sent written letters that we can't track. But we're basically 3.3 million communications in a little over a year. Most of them paper communications. Well, there were only 338 MPs. And we had MPs send us pictures of piles that one of them, they were dedicating a closet to communications on this. Every MP knows full well from the last Parliament that this was the single biggest issue facing Canadians, and yet Health Canada's pressing ahead with the self-care framework, and yet the NDP and the Liberals were quite open. No, we're pressing ahead with the self-care framework. And it's kind of like, what is it going to take? Like, do we have to like deforest Canada and send, 6 billion postcards, and like, what is it going to take? And so we're thinking, well, we need to start communicating with Health Canada, and also some different themes, right? And always peaceful and all of this, but there's decisions and policy decisions being made that are completely unpopular, and just putting pressures on MPs aren't working. So we're going to be inviting you to participate in that campaign, and we're excited about it. And we're just trying to figure out different approaches and different things, because we're not there yet. We're not sure why we're not there, truly. Because we're not asking for a lot. We're just asking for people to be able to choose something other than chemical drugs. We're basically asking to go back to the way we were before 2004.
Go back to pre-2004 for everything.
Yeah, well, and even not even that, like, that's when the regulations came into force, was in 2004. But like, it took us a good 12, 14 years to get, like, for the first 7, 8 years, there was hardly any compliance because Health Canada couldn't comply. They were flooded with all these license applications, and they really didn't know how to process them yet. And I predicted before we would go into a monograph system, for simple products, and that happened. But it really took a lot of time. So really, it's only a recent thing that we're in this licensing. And so let's just go back to the way we were. Let's go back to the way they are south of the border. They don't need government pre-approval. It's quite incredible. It's quite unreasonable. And the sad part is when you're focusing on something that won't make any difference, Like, so for example, before the regulations came into force, I don't know, it was 2003 or something, I'm an expert witness in front of the Standing Committee of Health saying, don't do this. And I asked the question, although it really was a rhetorical question, but I said, if we come back here, I think I said 10 years, in 10 years, and you've allowed these regulations to come into force, I said, will we be able to point to a single life that was saved? Like, we're certainly going to cause a number of deaths, but the safety signal for natural health products is so low that you can't even, you can bring in as strict of a regime as you want, you can't measure as to whether or not you're saving lives because the safety signal is too low for you to even answer that question. And they're not even measuring, well, wait a second, we've lost tons of products. We've totally lost innovation. Like, we're not making new Empower Plus and Strauss Heart Drops and Empirica Recovery. Like, we're not making these innovations the way we were before because we can't. You've stifled innovations. And those are products that save lives. There's no way around it. Everyone, Health Canada will agree on that one. So just because they've been in court cases and I've heard their experts tell me privately, we agree with you. So, and you drive prices up. So you basically take a whole portion of the population that can't access them, and they're not measuring the health cost of that. So it's frightening. It's a train wreck. So why don't we take some questions?
Let's do it. I have one here ready for you. So on that note, I think we can wrap things up for tonight. I want to thank everybody for being so active in the comments tonight. The chat was really going crazy. Everybody had a lot to say. And same goes for social media. Thank you, everybody, for always paying attention to everything we're doing there, commenting, liking, sharing, and it really means a lot. So thank you all for being here. And Shawn, if you have any closing remarks, I'll send it over to you.
Well, just the same as you, Dana, is I hope you guys appreciate, we enjoy these calls. We like the feedback, and we like letting you know. And, we didn't walk through, often we kind of do like our breakthrough numbers of what's been going on. But we're just, whenever we do that, it's actually, we're just bragging about you, because sometimes we can't believe the response, to our campaigns. And it really humbles us because we're just here to help you make a difference. And we take it really seriously. And we're really proud about what we do. And we're just thankful to be working with you and making a difference because, without you, like we need to go home and find something else to do. But together we're making a difference, and it's just really, it's exciting and it's literally fun. So thank you for participating.
Thanks to everyone who asked questions. I hope you all understand it. It is a timing thing, and sometimes we can't get to all of them. Take your questions to us on socials. Reply on X and Facebook. Ask your question there. We will get back to you. We do read them. And we'll be back next month as well. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
We invite you to get involved. Visit nhppa.org/subscribe to receive our weekly newsletter. NHPPA, dedicated to protecting Canadians' access to natural health products since 2008.